Welcome to part 2. More tips for beginners.
Where'd you go? How'd you get there? Okay, so let's talk about where to go and that type of thing. Fairly general basic. In Great Britain, there are two places where you can legally camp. Anywhere in Scotland, pretty much, and down here on Dartmoor, we can, at this moment in time, still legally camp in many places on Dartmoor. Go to Dartmoor National Park website and they have information on there about where you can camp legally. And there are plenty of places here for camping. It is quite tussocky and boggy and, you know, toury. There's a lot of tours around. So, you know, you have to kind of pick and choose where you're going to go. Don't come down to Dartmoor and just think you're going to camp there by looking at the map. It's not quite as simple as that, because it is quite tussocky and boggy and there's not that many places to camp down here. So you kind of got to pick and choose a little bit there. Some people, I think, use Google Earth. That might help you find somewhere maybe. You can camp pretty much anywhere else in England or the United Kingdom, Wales, but you kind of got to do it a bit more stealthily, as they say. And obviously if you're camping in the Lake District or the Peak District or somewhere like that, you get away with it mostly you won't get moved on. Some places now, I think they're moving people on in the Peak District, but generally speaking, as long as you find somewhere, you know, relatively high but not too exposed, off the beaten track where maybe you're not going to be spotted so easily, you'll probably be okay camping there. Just pitch late, get going early the next day, take everything with you, take all of your rubbish with you. Don't, for the love of camping, leave your rubbish behind. Take all of it, take every single thing, anything you bring in, take all of your rubbish and make sure you pack it in a rubbish bag of some description, a carrier bag or something. Just make sure you take all of your rubbish with you. Don't leave rubbish behind, take it with you, because if anything is going to give wild camping a bad name, is unfortunately idiots leaving their rubbish behind, and then you're going to get us banned by doing that. And don't light fires in the middle of nowhere where you're not supposed to either. Nothing more unsightly and dangerous than fire pits, because if you do that you could set fires off you know, in the countryside. So no lighting fires where you're not supposed to. It is a good idea, if you can, to scout out an area beforehand. So if you get the option to go somewhere and go for a day walk, you might very well find one or two places that you can camp just with your small rucksack. Take your flask, cup of tea, go out for half a day, go out for the whole day, and just do a long walk with the mind of trying to find somewhere. That was certainly what I did when I started 10 years ago. When I first started camping 10 years ago, I walked around Dartmoor for several months before and found places here and there, so I knew where I was going. It wasn't as if I was going from a first camp into the middle of nowhere not knowing where I was going to camp. So I do recommend that you know, if you've never done it before, and if it's viable, go and scout it out first so you know where you're heading. It's a good idea to have a phone signal. Obviously tell people where you're going. I mean, I never bother, but you know, generally speaking, you know, make sure people know where you're going. Make sure someone knows when you're due back. Send a text message or something like that, just to, you know, so if there's any problems or anything like that, then obviously people will know when to come searching for you. Have a general idea how to get back to the car in an emergency. It would also be a good idea if there's somewhere where you can go, and this was certainly something that I did. If there's somewhere that you can go and pitch your tent, maybe find a field or a farmer's field, but maybe if you live in the countryside, there might be a farmer's field around or something like that. And this is what I did when I first started. And it was just a field that's not being used, and chances of someone walking around is slim. So if you find something like that, take most of your kit with you, not necessarily every single thing, but take most of your kit with you into the field, get everything set up, put your tent up so you've had a practice of it, blow your airbed up so you're blowing your airbed up. In this practice scenario, don't get into camp and figure, and then start, and then not know how to blow your airbed up or something like that. So have a bit of a practice blowing up your airbed, setting up your tent, getting your sleeping bag set up. Although realistically, you're not going to go wrong with your sleeping bag, so you might want to leave that bit behind. But just set up your tent, maybe just check your airbed works, take your cooker with you, make a cup of tea, and then that way your tent works okay, you know how to pitch it, your airbed's working, you've also got somewhere nice and comfortable to sit. Make a cup of tea, you've tested your cooking pot, make sure it works okay. You're pretty much set then, to be honest. Then I wouldn't recommend going out November to February if you've never done it before. You can, of course, but I would wait until March, April time, when it's spring. Again, obviously you can go any time of the year, and if you're starting and you start in September, then that's fine, start in September. When I started, I practiced all through the autumn of the previous year, through the winter, pitching and messing around, playing with tents, doing day walks, just generally getting some practice in. And then I started camping in March 2012, so exactly 10 years ago now. And then that way, by starting in the spring, and you get the bug for it, you've then got the rest of spring, all of summer, and then obviously into the autumn to do your camping. And in that time, you're going to get some more experience. And then if you want to try winter camping, you've had X number of camps already. You'd have dialed your equipment in a bit more. That's a strange expression, dialed your equipment in. Anyway, you would have dialed your equipment in. Is that an American expression? Anyway, you would have dialed your equipment in. It took me a year or two to figure out, exactly what sleeping bag I liked, and you're not going to get it right first time necessarily, and that's another reason to start when the weather is a little bit nicer. Then if you haven't quite got something right, you're not going to freeze, in the middle of winter. Make sure you've got a map and compass and have a basic idea of how to use it. Obviously, don't be afraid to use your phone. You get mapping on that. Take a map, an ordnance survey map, or a harvest map. They work very well as well. Compass. Obviously, like I say, just make sure that you have a GPS map, ordnance survey type of map on your phone, and make sure that it will work where there is no signal. So make sure it works offline. Make sure you've got sun cream if it's summer. Make sure you've got a hat. Make sure you bring toilet paper with you, and take the toilet paper away with you. Now, What I do with toilet paper is if you have like a pasta meal or a cup of soup or something like that, you get one of those little packets left, go off, go at least 200 meters away from water or anything like that if you're doing a big job. And even for if you're having a pee, just go some way away from water. Preferably dig a hole. Do your business in the hole. If you're doing a pee, then it's fine, just do go. Cover it over, you know, with the soil that you've dug up, if you can dig a hole. Wipe your ass afterwards, and then as you're wiping, pop the tissue into like a little bag like this, roll it, fold it over, and then just, you know, put it. I use this type of bag. It's like a waste bag, but just put it inside a jiffy bag or something like that. So seal it up. I just put it in here loose, and I've never had any smells or anything like that coming out of it, so you really haven't got to worry. But take the toilet paper with you. When other people go out walking and camping, we don't want to see streams of toilet paper, you know, floating around in the air. So, you know, take your toilet paper with you, and that's it really. And just go out, enjoy yourself, have fun. Just go out for one night initially and just enjoy yourself. And if you have any worries, concerns, or any questions or anything like that about camping for the first time, drop a comment below, find me on social media, and I'll be more than happy, you know, to give some information. And if I've missed anything in this video, drop a comment below, and obviously I can answer it or I can address it, you know, in a different video in the future. But I think that pretty much covers all of the basics. Make sure you know where you're going, make sure someone knows where you're going and when you're due back, especially if you're a, you know, if you're a woman, girl, you know, just be a bit more cautious in that regard. And just go out, you know, and have fun and enjoy yourself.
If possible, try and pick nice weather. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.